And welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by our good friends over at Sport Buff, where if you use the promo code Owls Flight Deck 10 at checkout, you save 10% off your entire order. So go to sportbuffshop.com, use the code, save some money, get some nice merch, and support local. I'm Tim Capper. You can find me on X at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And I'm Clippy D. You can also find me on X or Twitter or Twix or whatever you call that platform over at Cliffy D.
How you doing, buddy? Been a weekend that we didn't go as planned, but still the same level result.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long weekend, I guess, in more ways than one for us. But
Oh yeah,
we had
yes,
quite the adventure, and it's funny. It all started last Saturday, going to Alouettes practice, which was
it was fun.
it's something that we haven't had a chance to do very much this year, unfortunately, because work and life commitments and what have you. But the stars aligned, thankfully, because the Alouettes had played on Thanksgiving Monday. They had a practice on the Saturday, so yep, we got in the car and we headed on out there.
That was fun. I will admit it was fun. Chilly, but it was fun. I know you mentioned this to me specifically, and I don't know. You haven't told me who, but it doesn't matter. Because you're talking about post game. I just want to, obviously, I would wanted to go to the Thanksgiving Day Classic. It's my second. I think it's only my second Thanksgiving Day Classic that I've missed. The last one I missed is when I had gone to see an NFL game in Pittsburgh, and I was just utterly exhausted after driving back the same day to come back to the game from the game, and I missed that one too. So uh, I even though I'd been wearing my gear all this time, I got tackled by the vid. So
You
it
end up
was
on
it
the
was
you end up on the one game injured list.
yeah. And I know you mentioned this just in passing. This kind of post game stuff, but I want to thank everybody who gave me their well wishes. Um, Greatly appreciated. Um, and I hope to see you at the next game. So it's again, I appreciate everybody's thoughts, and both my wife and I do, because both of us unfortunately fell to the same opponent just for a short period of time. It was only a loss on the play, and we're getting our offense is back on the field. So
It's fantastic, and yes, I'm not kidding when I said a lot of people were saying, "Hey, let Tim know that we're thinking about him, that we miss him, we hope to see him again soon." And like I said, the general concern is so. Don't ever doubt for a second that people, whether or not people care about you, whether it's because of this podcast or just being a part of Alouettes Nation. Trust me when I say that people definitely do care about you, wish you well, and are looking forward to seeing you back at Percival Molson Stadium.
yeah, I know one thing we need to talk about specifically uh, is we were hoping to have the second annual meetup, meet and greet. Shout out to Chloe, by the way, for at least setting up. I found out setting us up a spot. Obviously, we had to postpone. And have we come to a determination? We're going to do it for the because now with there being some with the last game, there being some meaning to it, whether it be Winnipeg side more so than us, or the Eastern Final. Have we come to a conclusion when we're going to do it? When we're going to make this up?
I think more than likely, I think our best bet would be to do it on October 26th. So we'll get that finalized for you folks and let you know. Obviously, make sure you tune into our socials to find out for sure. But I think more likely that's when we're going to organize it, because I mean the Eastern Final is going to be a crazy affair all by itself, and I have a feeling it's going to get kind of lost in that, as cool as it would be, and no doubt it's going to be a full house. I'm fairly confident of that. And truthfully, I think our best bet would be to do it on the 26th. So I think we can safely pencil that in. And
Yeah.
listen, I don't know if we'll be able to pull off some of the stuff that we were able to pull off that we had in mind for the game on Thanksgiving, but no matter what, we're still going to make something happen, folks. We're gonna do something fun. We're gonna get get you all involved in this as well. So I think let's do it, Tim. Let's make it the
Uh,
26th. That's going to be the reschedule. So again,
mhm.
make sure you follow on socials. We'll get more information to you as it becomes available. But I think we can safely pencil that in for the 26th.
And we'll go from 12:30 to 2 because it is a 3 p.m. start because the game will be on CTV.
Yep.
So 12:30 to 2. Same spot as before. We'll put it again out on socials. Still have our
Mm-hmm.
giveaways, yada yada yada. But again, we will try to get some other stuff done. Um, yep. So that's one thing out of the way. Let's talk about your tailgating experience because I wasn't there to experience it this year before the game. Obviously, you know, you and I made some slight modifications after the fact that I was sick and stuff like that with the changing of seats and whatnot because we keep on running. It's a running joke now where we upgrade our seats and it rains, which it's done. This would have been the third time, if I remember. If I remember correct, I think it's the third time that it is really, and this is the second year in a row that it really has rained and rained and rained.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was the experience like? Even though that basically there was in the forecast for the entire game there for tailgate.
Well, I'm always reminded of the words of Outcast, the singer, the group Outcast. So the song Miss Jackson. You can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. Although in this case, we were able to predict it. We knew it was going to be raining. We just didn't know to what extent. But you know what? I don't think it dampened anyone's spirits, to tell you the truth. When we got to the tailgate, it was its usual rockin' self. Like I said, people were obviously concerned about you, wanted to know if the fan meetup was still happening, because even though we did put it out on the socials that we had to postpone it, I think a lot of people didn't quite get the memo. So there's like, well, you're still going to do the meetup. I'm like, well, I can't do it without Tim. I mean, it wouldn't be right. So they understood. But as usual, the tailgate is always a fantastic atmosphere. Claude and the guy Kiviv do an absolutely outstanding job. They had the Thanksgiving dinner with all the trimmings. It was absolutely phenomenal. The deep fried turkey is just, oh my goodness, it's so good, so good, and everything just on point. I mean, it really does make for such a festive atmosphere. My gosh, it was. I tell you what, we've been to tailgates at different CFL cities, and I think everybody does a phenomenal job. I think you got to do the best you can with what you got. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I really do think our tailgate is just on another level altogether. I mean, I think when it comes to Montreal and football and the city itself, I mean, like the fans here really know how to tailgate. Alouettes Nation knows how to put together a party and celebrate not just football, but being together. Like they say, football is family, and you get that sense of feeling, that family feeling right away the minute you step through and Claude greets you and welcomes you to the spectacle, if you will. It is
It is,
always
yeah.
it's a fantastic atmosphere. And yeah, folks, if you haven't been by, you got to come through. You got to come say hello to all these guys and just be a part of Alouettes Nation. As far as I'm concerned, you do that and you walk into the stadium afterwards, and you're just at that point, you're jazzed up, you're ready to go.
It's funny you say so good, so good. And you say that it's sorry, me thinking of Sweet Caroline. Um, and I will go when we start talking about the game. By the way, I happened to hear a certain song actually played for the first time, and who knows how long. It was a little bit on TV, so I was like, but anyways, that's
Yes.
going forward. Yeah. How was the experience for not only with Lukaku V and what did the Owls do? Anything particular? Because obviously SJ Green was there. We were celebrating him at halftime, and I saw what they gave him. Stunning,
Mm.
absolutely beautiful. It's not a portrait. You can't because it was made supposedly out of vinyl or something like that. I'd go back and check again. It's a local, very well known artist, sports artist who does some stuff here in Montreal, but did the Owls do anything? Was SJ there signing autographs, or what did they do?
I'll be honest, I was pretty much tethered to the Liga Kiviv tailgate that I didn't get a chance to really mill about. But I mean, they had everything all set up, and I guess they figured, well, listen, we paid for it all anyways. You may as well set it up and do the best you can with it. And there was a pretty good turnout, I will say. A lot of folks did participate in the tailgate, from what I was able to see. Uh, as best they could with the inclement weather, they still put on a pretty good show. I honestly don't know if they did any sort of autograph sessions or meet and greet with SJ beforehand, whether it was at the tailgate, the Alouettes portion of the tailgate, or if it was inside Percival Wilson Stadium. I truly don't know. I apologize. I didn't get a chance to really see otherwise, but I still think no matter what, though, the Alouettes were committed to putting on a good time. They knew that 23,000 tickets have been sold. It was going to be sold out. We're all 23,000 plus going to show up. I think the Alouettes were banking on the fact that, yes, despite the lousy weather, you throw in some rain gear, you throw your poncho on, you get your butt into the stadium because, damn it, there's football to be played. And I think that was the attitude going in. And by and large, Alouettes Nation did show up and show out.
It's fantastic. It didn't really mess with the crowd at all? Because I know you're saying even though it was raining and stuff like that, really didn't mess. Because obviously, if people were there last year, was it able to be compared to last year, or just really just a lot more people in rain gear?
It really was just a lot more people in rain gear. I mean, again, I don't. Once again, I don't believe all 23,000 plus showed up. I would put the correct. If I were to estimate, I'd say probably closer to 21, maybe 22. Like there's a couple of small pockets here and there that didn't look quite filled, but maybe it was just when I happened to look over, maybe they were at the concession stands or whatnot. But by the
Right.
time the game got underway, and as usual for Montreal, they are late getting to their seats. But I'd say by the end of the first quarter, pretty much everybody had settled in and was there to watch, and the stadium was, if it wasn't 100% filled, it was damn near close. And you heard
It
it
looked
too.
like
I
it.
mean, even just the first defensive series for the Alouettes, you heard the noise right away, like to the point where drowning out, the in-game host. His name escapes me at this time, but he was trying to hype up the crowd, doing some sort of contest, and the crowd literally drowned him out. Like you could not hear one word he was saying. It was a testament to just how raucous and how boisterous Alouettes fans can be, especially when this is a sold out house. These fans show up at the best possible time. They make the noise and they contribute right away to the atmosphere at Percival Wilson Stadium.
Wow, that's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, because usually, I think probably in years past that inclement weather like that was had on Monday, they would have been a lot of people would not have shown up. I mean, I saw the crowd. I probably to me, look, probably around 20-ish. I could be wrong, but I mean, it's as you said, we're both looking at different sides of the stadium based on how it was on television. So,
Mhm.
um, but still, from what I heard, and from it was a great turnout in itself. Any last comments about the pregame before we get into the actual game itself?
Honestly, it was what we've come to expect now. I think people are slowly realizing that game day is an event. It truly is from start to finish. And the earlier you get there, get to the tailgate, start having fun, it just keeps on going. And it'll go all the way through the game, post game, all until you get home, basically. I mean, I think Montreal truly now has built that culture. They really have built the game day experience, and they keep trying to find ways to improve upon it. It's not perfect, and I don't know if it ever will be truly perfect here in the 514. But I think they realize what needs to be done, how you get people, to give up the comfort of their home, basically go out in the rain, sit out
Mm.
there in ponchos and whatnot, and watch a football game live. I think being able to sell that experience, sell how good this team is, and sell how important it is to be there live as opposed to watching it on TV. That alone, I think, has paid mass dividends to this Alouettes organization. And kudos to them for being able to provide that experience that people are looking for. Because if you give the people what they want, you give them a reason to get off the couch, turn off the TV, and come to the stadium live, they'll come again and again and again. And we're seeing that now. This was the third sellout, I believe, at Percival Wilson Stadium in 2024. And there's still two more opportunities to sell this stadium out, folks. So, I mean, if you don't have your tickets for the 26th and, of course, the Eastern Final, get on that because I'm sure it'll just be a matter of time before they end up announcing that, oh, yeah, even though this is a meaningless regular season game for the Montreal Alouettes, sold out. Eastern Final for all the marbles to go to the Grey Cup. I guarantee that is going to be sold out as well.
Alouettes do beat the Ottawa Red Blacks in the Thanksgiving Day Classic, 19 to 12. As we were talking about basically a steady rain throughout the entire game. Alouettes do win, Cliff, their 12th game of the season for the first time since 2010.
Mm.
Wow, that's great to see, and still got a chance to win. Still got a chance to win two more. Um,
Hmm.
thoughts about this game? Because obviously, yeah, I get a different perspective watching it on television versus being actually in the stadium. But um, this game, it I really do think this is one of the few times where you can chalk up the weather to creating the conditions that were played in that day. Because in my opinion, from a guy just watching on television, it was not. It wasn't a sloppy game. We've seen sloppy games before, by the way.
Hmm.
But this was a game where it wasn't perfect. The Owls did what they needed to do and get the win and get back in the win column. But this game was far from perfect, and I think there are a lot of variables that actually contributed to that.
Well, I think because Ottawa had more to play for, essentially, than what Montreal did. But at the same time, Montreal, you can tell that Coach Moss had made it very clear to these guys that there is no such thing as a meaningless game. Like, you've got to show up. You've got to give your 110%, all that jazz. Like, you even though you've clinched the division, you know you're playing the Eastern Final, you get the bye weeks, all that stuff. You still got to go and you still got to do the thing. And no one, I think, understood that assignment more than Davis Alexander, who got the start on Monday. And I mean, by and large, he played a pretty solid game. I think he too wanted to prove as well. Like, this is another opportunity to prove that, yes, I can be a starting quarterback in the Canadian Football League. And once again, he showed it. I mean, he was not perfect by any stretch. The interception he threw was definitely ill advised, to say the least. But
Yeah,
he too,
think I was like, who is he throwing it to?
if you didn't know better, you'd swear he was throwing it to Damon Webb of the Red Blacks, like, because
Yeah,
he was the one there, and like there was clearly someone miscommunicated. There was miscommunication there. Someone blew the assignment there. I'm not sure who it was exactly, but that's a pass that I'm sure Davis would love to have back. But it happens. By and large, though, he did play a very solid game. I think he was trying to make sure not to get himself injured or anybody else injured for that matter. So I think there was a lot of conservative play calling. I think there was a lot of trying to get the ball downfield, but at the same time, don't break your neck in the process. I think they were playing as safe and conservative a game as they can without it being boring. I think they really wanted to entertain the crowd. I mean, you got 23,000 fans in theory that show up for this game and are willing to sit in the rain. You can't just play vanilla football and send them home wondering, okay, well, yeah, I got the win, but okay, that's it.
yeah,
You want to give the people what they want. They want to see exciting football. They want to see touchdowns. They want to see great defensive plays. They want to see exciting football. I wouldn't go so far as to say this was exciting football. It wasn't boring football either. It was somewhere in the middle of that. I think it was just perfectly acceptable football. Again, if you're an Alouettes fan, you're happy they got the win, but at the same time, they played the kind of game that they felt they had to play, and that was just as cautious as humanly possible. Try to be entertaining, but at the same time, don't do something stupid that's going to end up with somebody getting hurt.
yeah. Well, with Davis's win, by the way, Cliff, he becomes 4-0 as a starter.
Mhm.
Obviously, technically 5-0 with the win in relief, I will say.
Mhm.
But with his four consecutive wins to start his career, he becomes the only Alouette player to win his first career first four career starts with the Alouettes, and which is
Outstanding.
it, which is, puts him up there, obviously. Uh, VA did it too. I think VA started at 3-0. I think we had some others. I'm trying to go in the list real quickly, but shout out to Steve Daniel for getting us that information and including it also in this week's game notes. So thanks for that. Um,
No,
what were your
we've talked about this before, and Davis Alexander is the truth. Simply put, he is the truth. He has more than proven that he can play in this league. Is he a starting quarterback in this league? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I I almost have to wonder, like, when this season is finished, regardless of how the Alouettes finish this year, a very big discussion is going to have to be made. Like, I would hate to see him leave, but at the same time, I don't want him to stay here and hold the clipboard while Cody Fajardo, even if he's playing at an outstanding level, is there. Because truthfully, I know I was about to say you can only have one quarterback on the field at a time, which is technically not true, but at the same time, they both can't throw the ball. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like you can only do so many trick plays like that, and even then, that's still not gonna do anything. Like, Davis Alexander definitely deserves to be a starter in this league. He's proven it time and time again. It's going to make for a very interesting offseason because you don't want to jettison Cody Fajardo for everything that he's done for this team, this current edition of the Alouettes. But at the same time, you've got a burgeoning superstar on the rise in Davis Alexander, and he can't be holding the clipboard either. So, I mean, I have a feeling something's going to have to give, and to what extent? Or do you find a way to have like 1A, 1B as your starting quarterback? And that too may not necessarily work either, because as people will often say, if you have two starting quarterbacks, you have no starting quarterback. This is going to
Yeah,
be
and
a
it's
this is going
just
to
the
be a very
amount of
interesting discussion.
yeah, just the amount of quarterbacks that are gonna be free agents this year, gonna put a lot of, you know, it will make free agency very interesting in February, but I'm selfishly hoping that that Davis will sign a new contract, even if it's just for a year. I would like to see what's been done with most of the other players, and I want hopefully Danny Mac will try to, sign him for at least for another 2. Again, selfishly, selfishly. I mean,
I,
I love Cody. Davis, he's become another one of our day one guys. Um, and there's a 7-year difference between Cody and Davis. And but by the way, I could leave this for the game coming up or the preview. It's gonna be Davis's birthday the day after the BC game.
ooh.
So yeah, so it's like again selfishly, but
And I jokingly
Davis.
even said, I even said to Davis post game, like, they got Danny Mac's got to sign you that 20-year contract, man. We this team cannot afford to lose you. And I could tell he appreciated the sentiment. And I mean, I think he would honestly love to stay in Montreal, but he also has shown, as I said, he's ready to be the man. He's ready to be a starting quarterback. He's young, but at the same time, he's ready to go. Like, and he's shown that he can do the job. So I cannot overstate just how interesting this offseason is going to be when it comes to the discussion of who will be the quarterback for the Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah, and it's about the system too. We've talked about it before because remember how well Jake Mayer did to start off his career? I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. It's all about the system.
Indeed.
Um, Davis was actually the only person to score an offensive touchdown. That came off of a man. What a play! That was the drive after the blocked field goals by the Alouettes, wasn't it?
Yeah, just it was all kinds of craziness. I mean, Austin Mack definitely was making plays happen. And how about former Montreal Alouette Money Hunter getting involved in that with him as well? Like, two penalties on
Mhm.
trying to rip the head off of Austin Mack. I mean, and then shove him out of bounds after. Like, wow, dude! Like, it was.
Yeah, that was obvious. That was obvious, and then I don't know if you guys if you in the stands saw the face mask prior to that, but yeah, you saw it on television. But him being pushed out of bounds like that for sure. And again, one other thing I want to talk because we talked about slow starts before, and the Alouettes had a decent start in the first quarter this week.
Mhm,
Um, I think it was either 4 or 5 first downs and had a decent amount of yards because of what they were doing despite the weather.
mhm.
My question to you was, despite having just the one touchdown, rest field goals, holding on, the defense doing what the defense does, we've talked about this already. And even though the Alouettes are not last in the league in rushing, they're now 8th. Um, What was your thought on how the Alouettes used the running game? Because I swear they could have used it a lot better, a lot more, and a lot better than what they did.
I'm glad that they got Sean Thomas Erlington involved in the running game. I mean, Fletch had a couple of nice runs, but I actually think this was almost a coming out party, if you will, for Sean Thomas Erlington. He was looking like Pinball Clemens out there, was just bouncing off of dudes on a couple of his runs. I mean, he was not afraid to lower his shoulder and get those extra yards as well. So I mean, in that sense, I was very pleased with that output. Obviously, I'm very surprised to see all the passing that happened compared, especially with the inclement weather, and balls get slippery and guys, you know, like I think right away the most egregious example of that would be that touchdown that Keon Julian Grant almost had, but it was easily knocked out of. It was the ball was easily knocked out of his hands. And I'm thinking if it wasn't so rainy out, maybe that's a tutty. Uh, the touchdown that
Be
Cole
fair
Speaker
to on that
almost,
play.
yeah.
To be fair on that play, I agree with you because I don't think it's that if people didn't see the play itself, and if you're just in stadium and you didn't see the actual broadcast, he bobbled it. If it had not come up because he had it, if it not bounced up and it popped up, that would have been a touchdown. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, if it was dry as a bone out there, I think that's a touchdown. The Cole Speaker touchdown that almost wasn't. Now, mind you, that the ball was thrown into double coverage, but at the same time, Cole Speaker this year has been able to make some pretty outstanding catches. I have to think too. Maybe if the weather was just a little bit better, he would have gotten that inside track just a little bit more and would have been able to secure the ball a little bit easier. But maybe it was just Ottawa's coverage on that particular play was just that much better than Cole's efforts. One can speculate, I suppose, but without question, with all that in mind, you'd think that they'd be concentrating more on ground and pound, like just running the rock as much as possible. And while they did run a bit more and get guys like Sean Thomas Arlington involved in the game a little bit more, we were still wanting more. We still wanted more, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's just because Davis wanted to show that he was still that gunslinger that in the style of big play VA, who was mentoring him back in 2022. Why they went away from the run as they always do, I couldn't tell you. It still remains a mystery to me. Yes, they are. I feel like they're trying to improve upon that. They're trying to help spread the workload out a little bit more, but especially with a game with like lousy weather conditions like this, you would have been happy to see more of a running game, and maybe just maybe you would have seen a little bit more of an effort from the offensive line to create some holes. But it just became once again more about pass protection, more about making sure that Davis had a chance to roll out if he needed to or make his reads. And I mean, they got the win, so that was the important thing for a lot of people. But yes, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from the running game. But I am pleased with the fact that they were able to increase the workload on the running backs just a little bit. So I mean, called baby steps, I guess. I guess they realize, okay, we can't just keep throwing the ball all the time because as much as you have talented receivers that are able to catch the ball, you got to give the running back some work too. I mean, the only way you're going to win this Grey Cup is with a varied offense, and pass is simply not going to do that.
And considering even though despite the age of the turf over at Personal Molson, we've seen that it drains water very nicely, very nicely. So whatever they've done underneath there, under the turf, and also too, I don't know if anybody else saw it, the mic'd up TSN and the CFL did mic'd up for the Alouettes Ottawa game this week, and I can't remember which player it was, whether it was on the Owl side or the red black side, but one of the general comments was, man, the ball is wet. So again, I'm not privy really to knowing. I've played in rain before, not competitively, but I played in rain. And so I don't know how how wet the balls can get and how it can affect. Obviously Davis was able to throw the ball and they change him out and yada yada yada. But again, I'm sure it made an impact. But again, I don't think it's concerning. It's just a matter of I think that the Alouettes just still need to. Well, we'll see what happens this week. They have still two more games. That's the plus about a lot of these other teams is because so many West teams have a bye week coming up. Um, even though the Owls don't really have much to play for, so to speak, except for record and playing time, etc. And you know, it,
Stats.
it's a type of situation where okay, but it's still concerning. Something has been concerning throughout the year, and it's you may be at week 20, you still need to make some improvements, no matter what.
And I'll even go so far as to say that, if anything, that should want to encourage the Alouettes to try doing the things that they haven't been able to do more of, simply for the simple matter of, well, it's not going to affect the standings. You still have to play the game regardless. This is the time to throw stuff out there, throw against the wall and see what sticks. And why not spend one quarter just pounding the rock on offense as much as possible? What's it going to change? I mean, if you lose the game in BC or you win the game in BC, it doesn't change anything in the standings. I mean, it's going to stay static. All that's going to happen is maybe the stats improve, maybe the play calling improves, maybe the overall play of everybody from the offensive line to the backfield, maybe that improves as well. I mean, what if that's the worst that happens? I think that's a pretty good thing for the Montreal Alouettes, considering we know what Davis Alexander and Cody Fajardo can do when it comes to passing the ball. There's no question about that. They've got talented receivers. Also, there's no question about that. I truly believe this running attack has potential to do some serious damage if given the opportunity. Problem is, they really haven't been given the opportunity. So I think there's no time like the present to start working on that stuff. Like it's almost like, trying out trick plays to see if you can catch somebody napping. And again, that's all well and good to do that when you don't have any skin in the game, or there's nothing really to play for. Maybe just take that same attitude when it comes to the running game. Find ways to improve upon it. Try stuff, see what works, what doesn't work, and build on that. Even, I mean, to me, that seems like this is the perfect opportunity to do that, because you got to go out and play that game in Vancouver anyways. We know the history of the Alouettes at BC Place is not very kind to them. Why not take advantage of the fact that, hey, this is almost like a free space on the bingo card. Let's use it to our advantage.
Yeah, yeah, that's some very good points, Cliff. Davis Alexander was 14 to 24 for 208 yards, one interception. Again, we thought he was throwing to the red black player. Just that was the route, right? I think that was the route.
I'm sure if you ask him, he'd probably say the same thing.
Well, he did say it's the pass he shouldn't have thrown. I know he did say that during post game. For the rushing wise, again, this is where my concern is, but it's kind of the quarterback that he is. Davis Alexander did lead the team in rushing, 6 attempts for 45 yards, and that one touchdown where, man, he took a wallop of a hit. But his longest was 15 on the day, so he used his legs accordingly. Walter Fletcher had 10. God, when's the last time Fletch had 10 attempts? I'm trying to remember. When I saw that, I was like, I didn't have time to check it. When was the last time he had 10 attempts?
Maybe like more than 10, or just 10 total?
Well, I guess we could say 10 plus.
Probably Edmonton, like the game in Edmonton when he went
Yeah,
off. I think.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, but he had 37. He had 37 yards. STE had 3 attempts for 6 yards, and Dominic Davis, mostly on short yardage, had 4 for 6. Wide receivers. It was funny. After that one KJG attempt there, Cliff, he didn't get another target for the rest of the game. Interesting.
Yikes.
But the leading receiver was the Big Mac, Austin Mack, 4 receptions on 9 targets for 92 yards. And then it was Walter Fletcher. Again, Fletch out of the backfield. It's balancing. It's funny. It's balancing out between rushing and receiving, showing again. But still, I would be happy if Fletch could do both. I mean, he's done it before, where I think he had close to 100 or just over 100 in each of the receiving and rushing categories. But he had, as I said, he had 45 yards. Cole Speaker at 25. Jacob Mason. I had forgotten about Jacob Mason. It was his first ever CFL catch. 1 for 17. STE had 17. Charles Arambo was quite quiet on the day and he had 12. thoughts overall. I know Mac will, I'm sure, would be hard on himself, but it was nice to see him. And that 50-yard play that he had was just
Ooh.
again, that was the Big Mac in himself.
That was a reminder to everybody that the Big Mac is back without question. And again, could not have come at a better time. And guess what, folks? You're going to be seeing that for the next 4 years. You're going to be seeing highlight level plays like that over the next 4 years. This was just a reminder that, oh, in case y'all forgot about me, I can do that. And you absolutely love to see it. And it's
Mhm.
funny, even talking with Mac after the game, like he is so excited to be a part of this community, like to be a part of Montreal, living here year round. He's looking forward to winter here, if you could believe that. And there's a little part of me that's going, "Oh, bless your heart! Like you think you're ready, but you're not ready." And
Wait a minute,
he'll
hold on.
learn.
Do you hear? Do you hear that?
Oh,
I'll leave it at that. Uh,
but better myself.
yeah, but yeah, it was nice to see him get back to what we've seen him do. Yeah, him in the wind. Can you think it's possible, Cliff? If that's the case, we're not going to have one, but we're going to have two superstars staying in this city over the winter time. Gina Lewis and the Big Mac in the
Mhm.
same city in the same off season. Can you think this is a an off season throwing session that we need to attend, especially if they have it over the Stinger Dome. This is one we're going to have to attend.
And especially if our man Vernon Adams is going to come and do some training as well, he's going to be recruiting those guys to come and have a catch. So I think we're going to have to make something happen. I think we're going to have a bit of a flight deck summit, if you will.
There you go. There you go. Let's talk about the defense. Again, held Ottawa out of the end zone, um, and just you know, guys came up with things when they needed to. You know, again, quarterback sacks, two of them by Isaac and Jimmy Berglund.
I want to
Uh,
talk. I want to talk about Isaac for just a second here.
yeah, sure, go
We,
ahead.
on the last show, we talked about most outstanding Canadian nominees, and we said we can make a case for Isaac Adeyemi Berglund. I think Isaac Adeyemi Berglund made a case for most outstanding player this past Monday. Holy cow. I mean, he's been playing outstanding football for the past few games, but he was truly on one on Monday. And wow, just wow. I mean, he was dropping quarterbacks like a bad habit. I mean, he was a menace out there. And he, you want to talk about outstanding football, like defensive football? That's him. That's Isaac Adeyemi Berglund. My goodness. And happy to say friend of the show. And believe me, if we get a vote this year for the CFL awards, you better believe you want to call me a homer or whatever like that, but no, I'm going to stand on business and say that Isaac Adeyemi Berglund has to be the Alouettes nominee for most outstanding Canadian. I mean, he just that game alone cemented that status. He was absolutely outstanding.
Also, rookie Antonio Moultrie had a sack in the game. He had the first of the game, I think, if I remember correctly.
Not only that, but he also blocked that field goal.
Did you? I don't. You didn't get to see it. What was funny was, where did I hear that? It was. I think he was the. They interviewed him. I think at halftime, either coming out or what. I can't remember what. But I remember him being asked, "Did it, considering it was a cooler weather and it was raining, did it hurt your hand?" He goes, "I didn't feel a thing."
Love that tough guy football, smash mouth football. I love it.
Yeah. Defense again. I mean, we're talking about. It's funny. One of the very off days for Darnell Sankey. He only had one total tackle. But he did have a tackle for a loss.
Mhm.
Um, and you talk about one of the guys who should be one of the leaders, obviously, in our vote if we were for teams MOP. It would be total tackles would be Tyrese Beverett. He had 7. So again, holding Ottawa are holding their opponent out of the end zone. They were, I think, they had 3 times where they had a chance. They were in the red zone and they held them to field goals.
Mhm.
You know, it really wasn't. It was a dominating performance, but I think overall, I think it was a team performance. Nobody really looked bad. Nobody really looked super. It was just one dominant, uh, game by the entire defense.
I will say though, by and large, you're right. But I will say, if someone did stand out, it has to be Wesley Sutton. He was truly phenomenal. I mean, his interception was. I think when he goes to bed at night, he prays to get interceptions like those because what I know Jeremiah Masoli played at Oregon, but that was a wobbly duck if I ever saw one, and threw it, I think 100 feet in the air, giving Sutton all kinds of time to get underneath it and just pull it in. And even I'm like, why would you make that throw? Like, what were you thinking? I mean, as much as we want to,
It's shades of Double D throwing that wobbly interception to seal the Grey Cup for the Alouettes versus in the second game, in the second back-to-back Grey Cups between them. So I think Billy Parker got that one, but yeah, that's
yeah,
that's what kind of remind me of was the deuce the deuce's the horrible throw.
oh, it was
Yeah.
just, yeah, it was up there. I mean, as much as we want to, you know, needle Davis about his interception, I mean, Masoli's interception was 100 times worse. I mean, that was just
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
wow. I mean, and listen, Wesley Sutton will take interceptions like that all day long. He ended up winning he was voted player of the game by the fans, and well
Mhm.
deserved because he had a couple of nice hits as well. I mean, he was just all over the place. Like, yeah, I still think back to our interview with him and how he very much wants to be in consideration for most outstanding defensive player. And again, this year, I mean, I'm sorry, it's going to be Bev. There's no question about that. But Wesley Sutton proved that, hey, listen, I'm no slouch either with his play on Monday. I mean, got to give props to that. Wesley just played some absolutely outstanding football, and I, quite frankly, I expect nothing less out of him. Like, he has proven that he can be that guy, and once again, he was this past Monday.
Before we talk about post game, I want to remind everybody that we are on social media, many places that you can find us. If you want to find our entire archive, our audio archive, you can do so by heading over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You'll have all 9+ years of this glorious show of ours. Also, if you're looking to find us out on other social locations, you can find us over at X, that's Alouettes FL Deck. Facebook is over at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod. Instagram and YouTube, that is over at Alouettes Flight Deck. Also on Twitch, it is over at twitch.tv/Alouettes Flight Deck. Don't forget, when it comes to YouTube, you can find our audio version, our video version, and our companion post game show, Flight Deck Live, which was postponed obviously this week with us with the crew not being together, but stay tuned that it will be returning this week post game for the BC Lions. That we can tell you for sure. So stay tuned for all of our social media for that one. Also, if you are looking to buy some merch for the shop and rep us wherever you go, head over to flightdeckgear.ca. Again, too, Cartoon Bear 56 shirt. Maybe wait. Maybe you might get one of the sweet giveaways we got coming up for the meet and greet. If you want to buy
Ooh.
another one, by all means, go ahead. Also, newly here at the at Alouettes Flight Deck, it is also our new affiliate partner, Royal Retros. Everybody knows about Royal Retros. You don't need a time machine to go back to get all that sweet, sweet throwback merch. So head over to royalretros.com or check out the links in all of our bios. You can also use the code Flight Deck at checkout and save 15% on your entire order. It's great partnering with Royal Retros.
Absolutely.
Um, I know because you were able to experience it, and I wanted to ask you because I saw the Joey Alfieri, their post game show. And I saw. It's funny. I wasn't there, but you tried to make as many unofficial appearances on the post-game show without you knowing it. I don't know how many times. That's why I texted you a little bit later, and that's why I said, "Say this," because we both kept seeing you. Um, Tell us about post-game. What was the vibe from uh, the vibe from the players, the people that you spoke with, and stuff like that, and anything in particular stand out to you?
It was awesome to be able to see the legend once again, SJ Green. I mean, people like to throw the term GOAT around quite a bit. And I mean, when it comes to SJ, I mean, as awesome as a player as he was back in the day, 10 times better person off the field. I mean, I'm so happy for him. And finally, when I got a chance to see him, obviously, big smile on his face. I asked how I was doing. Second question was, "Where's Tim?" I'm like, oh, jeez. And I had to say, oh, "I'm sorry. He unfortunately he's not doing well, and he really wanted to be here too. Usual stuff." My concern though was, as many of you probably know, SJ lives in Tampa, Florida, which was affected by Hurricane Milton. And my first question to him was, "Are you guys okay? I are you guys like basically is your family okay?" And he started to say, "Yes, we're okay. And we were able to ride out the storm. There was some damage, but nothing too severe. Obviously, nobody got hurt, thank God." And yeah, it's no doubt a scary time for SJ. And I think there's a big part of him that was glad to be coming up to Montreal to be honored, because at least he can take his mind off of what's been going on. I mean, it's that was my concern in seeing SJ. I mean, I was really looking forward to seeing SJ no matter what, but that was my concern right off the bat was, oh my God, I just hope you and your family are okay. I mean, stuff can be rebuilt, possessions can be reacquired, things like that. It's just, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And thank goodness, knock on wood, SJ and his family, everybody was okay. So as soon as we found that out, smooth sailing. The rest of the time, always great to catch up with him. So happy for him being nominated into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame this year. Well deserved. He was recognized by the Alouettes at halftime. Absolutely outstanding job with that as well. Again, we've talked about this numerous times. The Montreal Alouettes, when it comes to saluting the heroes of the past, they just know how to do it. They get it. They understand the importance of that. They understand how important it is for fans to be able to salute their heroes and pay homage to them, and they just do it properly, simply put. And with SJ Green, no exception. It's kind of funny though, because a lot of people are like, "Should SJ get his jersey retired?" And it's a
That's
tough,
Cliff,
it,
get out of my head. I was
right,
just about to say something. It's like you have John Bowman and you have SJ. Obviously, we know there are only a certain amount of numbers that you can have that you retire. Is
right.
this the time now? Because especially with what they did in Saskatchewan this past weekend, with addition to their wall of honor,
hmm
is it time for the Alouettes now to create their wall of honor?
I'm going to say yes. I think the argument can be made that there are so many of these heroes, so to speak, and yes, they definitely should have something like that. And obviously, especially with football too, it's so hard. You can only retire so many numbers. You really so can, and you then becomes a category of what constitutes retiring a number. Like when you like for us, it's Ben Cahoon and AC Anthony Calvillo. Without question, those numbers had to have been retired. I mean, for what they brought to this Alouettes organization, without question, they should have been retired. But then one can make the argument, well, John Bowman played his entire career for the Alouettes. Shouldn't his number be retired? Brian Chew played his entire career for the Alouettes. Shouldn't his number be retired? S.J. Green did absolutely phenomenal things in the Canadian Football League, especially in his time with the Montreal Alouettes. Shouldn't his number be retired? And the answer to that is, in a perfect world, yes, yes, yes. But football's a funny sport in the sense that you got so many players and you got so many people, you know, there's a lot of positions and they all need numbers. And if you start retiring everybody's number, then there's going to be nothing left. I mean, it's so tough. And then it comes to the category. Like then you look at the numbers that were retired before. Like, should those go back into circulation? It really is a tough call. Like I kind of think now we're at this point where we have to start looking at like a ring of honor or a ring of fame or wall of
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, like something that lets you salute the player, acknowledge the time that they played for the Alouettes and what they were able to accomplish, and let them be immortalized in that sense. I definitely think that time has definitely come, and I hope the Alouettes take that into consideration. But when it comes to retiring numbers, I mean, it's so tough. I mean,
Yeah.
it is weird to see, like, for example, Jeffrey Conte Arcu is wearing number 19. And one could make the argument, well, I guess all I can hope for is that he just does that number justice, because we loved SJ Green as a player. He did phenomenal things wearing number 19. And if you're going to wear that number, you better be doing phenomenal things yourself. I guess that's the thought. And same thing with the number 7 that John Bowman wore so proudly for so many years. Now it's Cody Fajardo, and he's doing amazing stuff with it. So that's fine, and so on and so forth. But it's always a tough call, right? I mean, you want to honor the past, and the Alouettes do a great job with that. But at the same time, you just can't retire everybody's number. So I mean, it's like
Yeah.
as it is the ultimate honor to have your number retired, but at the same time, there's a little part of me that thinks, well, there's a lot of teams that don't retire numbers. Like Winnipeg, for example, doesn't retire numbers. I mean, I mean, technically, you still haven't seen number 85 worn by anyone, and you probably never will. So I mean, it's retired, but it's not. But at the same time, there's lots of other legends who wore numbers, and those players are wearing those numbers now. So it definitely makes for interesting discussion, if nothing else.
Charleston Rambo.
For example, yes.
He was
Uh,
wearing Gino's number. Yeah.
sorry.
It's it's interesting because yeah, Blue Jays had their Ring of Honor. The Steelers have their Hall of Honor as an example. Just looking these quick things up here, and it's yeah. I don't think it's a slight, in my opinion, and maybe something that we should pose to Alouettes President Mark Waitman when we have him on for our yearly State of the Team address. Um, what would he what are his thoughts about this? Because we do have quite a few Hall of Famers that have not had their numbers, who were predominantly with the Alouettes, who have not had their number retired. Um, maybe it's how they did their thing. I did notice, for the ceremony for SJ, they did give him a jersey. They gave him that spectacular. I'll call it a piece of art. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was. It's a piece of art. Um,
Mhm.
I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know what the team's going to do going forward, considering all of the Hall of Famers that we've had recently. And it's not, and not having it retired. And think we've had the conversation before, it's not necessarily a slight. And it is in no way a slight to these guys who've already had it released, had the numbers retired. Things have changed. You know what I mean? Maybe it's
Mhm.
time to make it a hall, to actually have a physical thing. Maybe we're there at Percival Molson or whatever. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's something that I don't know if the team is looking at because, as I said, sure, I understand that these guys are Hall of Famers within the CFL, but what about giving them homage here in the city where they made their names the most and where they became Hall of Famers?
Absolutely.
Something to talk about. Something to talk about to Mark.
100%.
Any other last things when it comes to post game? Because I said I saw you quite a bit, and I'm sup- had it stopped raining by the way at that time? Because I know Joey was doing his post game stuff still under his tent that they had set up for him. I guess he needed a tent. We wouldn't have needed one if we'd been doing the show.
Li-
I can tell you
Listen,
that much.
between having him be on his show inadvertently and being under a tent, listen. Let's not pick on the guy. Okay, he's been through enough. Clearly, he's
Actually, seeing Joey without glasses was mind blowing to me because Joey wasn't wearing glasses, and I was like, "What?
well, yeah.
That's
Is he going
not
to stop
Joey
every
up
10
here."
seconds to clean them?
No, he didn't have them on at all.
There you go. So I mean,
I'll
I
have to
don't
ask him
blame
next
him.
time I see him. Yeah. So any other takeaways post game?
Just again, it's always such a privilege, and it's so funny because I was pretty much in my usual post game mode of go and talk to the players that made outstanding plays and get their thoughts, because my thought is, okay, I can't wait to share this with everybody on Flight Deck Live, and then it's, oh, but there is no Flight Deck Live.
Yeah.
I'll keep my thoughts for the week then. So, I mean, it was
Yeah.
great to chat with, like I said, a lot of the guys. As I said, I saw Isaac Adeyemi Berglund after the game, and I told him, dude, you just made your case. Like, you are the most outstanding Canadian on this team. Full stop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you could tell he was beaming. Like he knows it. He knows that he's been on one this year without question, and this game solidified that as far as I'm concerned. I think, and I mean, no disrespect to any of the other national players on this team, but I mean, what he's been able to do this year has been nothing short of, well, outstanding. Hence the award. So,
Hmm.
I let him know that if we get a pick this year, if we get to say so, definitely it's got to be Isaac Adeyemi as most outstanding Canadian for the Eastern Division, if not the Alouettes, then definitely the Eastern Division for sure. Aside from that, just chatting with the usual folks is always a privilege. There's no question about that. But yeah, just a little bit of a bummer that not getting a chance to do Flight Deck live, but you know, we're here now talking, so that's the important thing. And as you said, we will still be doing Flight Deck live after the game versus BC. So, folks, make sure again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following. Make sure you hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Make sure that you know that when we go live, like you'll get notified when you go live. If you're following us and all that stuff, you'll know. So make sure if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that right now. So that way you do not miss a single solitary thing.
20th year in a row, the Alouettes clip did go to the Welcome Hall mission. It's funny. We talk about the tradition of the Thanksgiving Day game in Montreal, how it is that's it. It is our tradition, despite that one year. And the other years that we happen to have been on the road. But since they've been back in Montreal, it's been predominantly here in Montreal.
Hmm.
20 years. So, going out, taking the time out, the players, even though they've played the game already, gone out to the welcome hall and just to help with spread the Thanksgiving cheer and thanks to the people in need. It's one of it's one of the really cool initiatives that the Alouettes have done for almost their entire history, being since they come back in '96.
Yeah, and I love it that it's now been spearheaded by Anthony Calvillo, who, as far as I'm concerned, was the one who made that event. Like, it really brought it into the public, just by the simple fact that you've got arguably the greatest quarterback that's ever played in this league. After the game, win or lose, he's there with his teammates, helping serving Thanksgiving dinner to the less fortunate. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal. I still remember back in 2011 when he set the all-time record for most passing yards on Thanksgiving Day. And was he like after the game? What does he do? He doesn't go to the club. He doesn't go out to a fancy dinner with his family or his teammates to celebrate this absolutely phenomenal accomplishment. He goes to the mission hall and he's serving up turkey and the fixins and all that stuff to people that have fallen on hard times. I mean, that to me, that's why he will always be my quarterback, just because, as again, I keep talking about guys who are amazing on the field and even better off of it. I mean, Anthony Calvillo basically set the mold for that, as far as I'm concerned, here in the 514. Like you talk about leading by example, that is 100% leading by example. And the fact that the Alouettes after him are still doing this, the players still get together, they still go down to the mission hall and they serve this Thanksgiving meal and just try to spread a little cheer, a little kindness, like help your fellow man out. I mean, it is something I'm so grateful for. And the fact that AC himself is front and center with that, like he's leading the charge. So like once again, like he did when he was a player, leading the charge, grabbing guys and say, "Hey, let's go. We're going to do this." And they're on board 100%. And it is so amazing. I mean, like I said, it is one of those things that just makes me so proud to support this organization, this entire franchise. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And when we talk about the Thanksgiving tradition, and we are insulted when it's not considered as important as, say, like the Labor Day games or anything like that, this is the stuff we talk about. Yes, it's great that we get to go to the tailgate and have fun and watch a football game on Thanksgiving Monday when we got the day off and all that's all great too. But there's more to it than that. And the Alouettes realize that, they understand that too, and it is so amazing that they think not just of the fans but also of the city itself. And this is what Jason Moss talks about when it comes to representing Montreal, the province of Quebec, the 425, everything like that. This is part and parcel of it, and that this organization every single year goes out and they do this, win, lose, or draw. To me, I mean, that, as I said, this is what makes me so proud to support this organization. They just, they get it. They 100% get it, and I sincerely hope all of Alouettes Nation understands and realizes how important Thanksgiving is to us and why it's so important to us, because this is what helps make this such a tremendous tradition here in the 514.
I agree. The one of the times where a lot of people have questioned this, the the Alouettes finish on a Monday, and they got a short week to head out to BC. This is still one of the many talking points in the CFL. It's not an Owls related issue, but it's still an issue nonetheless. Because of that, the Alouettes only had technically one official practice this week. It was today. But before that, the Alouettes did finally announce, Cliff, that they had signed defensive lineman Jaron Cage from Ohio State. He was added to the practice roster, even though the CFL announced it officially on the 13th. That's why I always tell our listeners and viewers, make sure you keep an eye on the CFL transaction wire, because I'm sure you may learn stuff early before your team actually does officially announce it. Um, from there, also some of the unique things that we saw is that, because of Cody Fajardo being on the one game, in, I want to say injured list, one game paternity list. Um, uh, James Morgan was added to the active roster. James Morgan is now bounced back to the practice roster. And it was a lot of speculation on what was happening. We saw a little bit of stuff coming out of both English and French media today about the status of Cody Fajardo for the game coming up in BC. Some had said, "Oh, Davis Alexander was going to start again," and which to me, I understood that point, but it really didn't make any sense, because the first thing that I thought, Cliff, is that considering, oh wait, where's Cody currently? He's at home. Where's that? It's in Nevada. Okay. Can Cody just fly up to BC and meet the team in BC? Well, according to after today's practice scrum, that seems to be the case. Cody did take part, not in practice today. Their only practice today over at Stade Bear, but he also did take part yesterday in the game plan. So we won't find out officially who is going to be listed as the quote unquote starter until tomorrow's depth chart comes out. But I would not be surprised if Cody does start. But then from the comments from Coach Moss today, Cliff, I would not be surprised if we see more than one quarterback get a little bit more playing time. And I think that's what's going to be the case, because I know we'll talk about more again next week, after the game next week. But with now the Winnipeg game being more of a big deal now for the home finale, even though it is technically a preseason game for the Alouettes. It's gonna mean a lot to the Blue Bombers. Could be very interesting, but needless to say, as I said, I think Cody will play, but I think Davis will also play. Also, again, we'll see. We'll see who's going to get the start and who won't. But it's out to BC. This is probably one of the weirdest times heading out to BC. BC's basically, they're hoping to get to 500. They've already been relegated, considering the start that they had. They're trying to get back to 9-9, and they're also going to have to fly out to either Winnipeg or Saskatchewan to play in the Western Semi. Probably one of the few times flying out where a game in BC really has not meant that much at all. And I'm trying to remember the last time where a game has had so little meaning going into BC. Also, finding out, and it was announced way early this week, and I don't know why people were really surprised when they saw it the first day of practice, I think, for them. is that VA, Vernon Adams, is going to be starting for them. They have benched Nathan Rourke.
Mhm.
So I I don't I get it. I don't but the comments are very interesting coming out of BC also. It's like, if he does play well, he could start in the semifinal. Okay. Interesting. So what are your thoughts going into this? I mean, at one point the Alouettes were favored. Now, according to the stat line, to the betting lines, the Alouettes are a 1.5 point underdog. The current line is 48.5 points. But again, stressed today by Coach Moss, history is history. You can't do anything about the past. We all know with the Alouette how poor the Alouettes play in BC. I think their last win was in 2015, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly, and they've only won
Yep.
twice out there. I think in the last 19 years or something like that. So I'll
Mhm.
go back and check for sure. But thoughts on this matchup going into BC, because we could potentially have, and I have to steal your term before you'd say it. It's going to be potentially big play DA versus big play VA in BC on Saturday night.
Yeah. And I'm personally excited for Vernon Adams to get the start and get a chance to show what he can do because let's not forget, he was putting up some MOP like numbers to start this season before Nathan Rourke was even thought of coming back and playing for the BC Lions. Since he's come back, I mean, Rourke has just been average at best and mid at worst. I mean, he's really not looked like the guy that lit the world on fire back in 2022. Mind you, he did play a very good game against the Montreal Alouettes at Percival Wilson Stadium this year, but that's beside the point. The chance now for VA to show what he can do, and that's essentially what this is going to have to come down to, is because can the BC Lions keep both Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams in 2025? Automatically, I want to say no. I think they've decided that they're all in on Nathan Rourke. They gave him the big contract. They pretty much blew their load, so to speak, on Nathan Rourke. I know it sounds really terrible the way I just put it,
I
but
know, I know, I know.
you may want to edit that part out. Let's
No,
try it
I'm just
again.
saying, especially if somebody comes into the podcast right there. Blow them. What the hell type of show is this?
Yeah, we're gonna have to put a PG-13 on this or something. I
Yeah.
don't know, but earmuffs, kids. Anyways,
There you go.
all this to say, Vernon Adams is going to get the chance to show what he can do, what we know he can do. There's no question in my mind he can be a starter for any team in this league. He should be a starter, quite frankly. He should have still been the starter, even with Nathan Rourke coming back, if only just to show that he is that quarterback, that he is, as far as I'm concerned, still one of the top caliber quarterbacks in this league. And the thought of playing his former team, I'm sure, has to get him excited. He wants to go out and he wants to show. Every time he plays the Alouettes, I know he wants to show out. He wants to just give him a little reminder, like, okay, yeah, you guys did okay without me, but at the same time, I did pretty good. He did a lot of good stuff when he was here in Montreal, and I'm sure he wants to remind the organization that, hey, you had me at one point, and look what I can do. So it's going to be interesting though, because yes, I have a feeling it will be Vernon Adams getting the start 100% versus Davis Alexander. As we said, it'll be almost like a student versus the master kind of match, because Vernon Adams took young Davis Alexander under his wing and showed him the ropes back in 2022 when they were both at Montreal Alouettes training camp and throughout the start of the season. Davis said he learned an awful lot from VA, and even as tribute, switched his number last year to number 3 in honor of big play VA. But now Davis is a full grown man. Like he's shown what he's able to do in this league, and I think he's going to be excited at the thought of taking on his old mentor and showing him that, oh yeah, you showed me a lot, but now is my time to show you something. So to me, I think that's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I think Montreal is going to go into this match like they did against Ottawa, very cautious, very. They have to play this game. There's no question about that. They may try to throw some stuff against the wall to see what sticks. Try some new stuff out just for the sake of trying it out, because you have to play this game, win or lose. It doesn't change anything in the standings. Obviously, more than likely, if history has shown us nothing else, they'll probably lose this game because that's just how it's always been. But interestingly enough, I mean, BC too has shown that they don't always play their best games at home either. So I mean, Montreal could end up surprising and walking out with a W as well, which would be great, if only to help bolster their stats, hope you know, add to their record and all that wonderful stuff. But it's going to be an interesting game no matter what, for a lot of reasons. I'm just hoping that the Alouettes take advantage of this, like I said, playing with house money, because if the game doesn't really mean anything in the standings, it doesn't affect their playoff spot or any of that stuff. And obviously, you don't want anybody getting hurt. You don't want to. It's bad enough you have to fly across 3 time zones and play this game that essentially changes nothing, win, lose, or draw. You may as well take advantage of that house money.
At least it's in the afternoon local time. That's a plus.
Yeah. And it's funny, you got me thinking, with Cody Fajardo joining the team in BC, he's already on West Coast time. One has to.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Nevada Mountain. But either way, tomato. I get you.
Point is, one can make the argument that he's already in that. Like he's not going to have that sort of jet lag or any of that, time zone messed up, or like internal clock being messed up or anything like that. So maybe Cody does actually get the start. Maybe just based off that alone, that might be reason to give him the start for this game. Even though Davis Alexander has proven himself, every time he's called upon, he wins. As I say, you should always go with the hot hand, and arguably Davis is that hot hand. Hasn't really stopped being that hot hand, to tell you the truth, but I don't know. I mean, if this game really mattered in the standings or anything like that, then I think you would see Fajardo, for those reasons, get the start. But it's going to be interesting no matter what. And I think you're right. I think both guys are going to see some decent playing time, and I just sincerely hope that, once again, this Alouettes team, they've got to go out there. They got no choice. They have to play this game. I just don't want to see anybody get hurt. It's such a crucial time right now for this team. Things are falling in their favor, and we know they're capable of winning. Is it that important to win out in BC? I guess one can make the argument, like, you may as well get the idea of what it's going to be like, because in November, that's where the Grey Cup's going to be played. So maybe start checking out the facilities, all that stuff, in hopes that, maybe that'll motivate you. Like, yeah, you could be playing here again in about a month's time. So that could be a motivating factor as well. I mean, we'll see, but it's going to be an interesting game in a lot of ways. I just, once again, hope that they go out there and escape the injury bug. That's my hope right now for this game.
Yeah, last 2 wins, as I said, it was 2015, and the last one before that was 2010. Last time they won. They were one.
Technically,
well, I know. I was just about to say it, but
go
ahead, Mr. Pine.
No. This is your thing. Go.
It was at Empire Field.
Yes.
The temporary Empire Field. The last time that the Alouettes played BC, and I looked it up, they had played BC this late in the season before. It was also their last home game of the year, last road game of the year. It was back in 2011. I'm not going to even mention what that score of the game that was, because that was. Yeah, you remember how bad it was?
Oh, I do.
Oh yeah, I don't want to mention it. I'm not gonna give any. Yeah, no, I'm not going to mention it.
And that game did have meaning for the Alouettes. So I remember you were talking about, what was the last time the game you went and played a game this late in season and it had meaning. That game actually did have some meaning in the standings, whereas this upcoming game has absolutely no bearing whatsoever. So let's just hope history doesn't repeat itself in that sense, because I'll let you folks Google what we're talking about, like 2011 BC Lions Alouettes game in just. Actually, you know what? Don't bother. It never happened.
Don't bother.
Let's just wait. Let's moving on.
Yeah. We did see, according to the practice report, that Mustafa Johnson will not be playing this week. And it was, even though it's not listed on there, if I remember hearing it correctly during the post practice scrum today, Cliff, Austin Mack will not be playing. I think coach said he wanted to play, but again, reasons. So
again, we
Everything will be laid out in the depth charts once we see them released tomorrow, probably late tomorrow, uh, morning, so or just early in the afternoon. So
maybe Austin is going to be going to buy his family winter gear. Maybe that's what it is.
yeah, 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 maybe. He's gonna go over to Dick's, or he's gonna go over to, trying to think of
Lakekeeper.
some of the other. Yeah, yeah, or it could be, go to the nearest mountain equipment co-op, you know, why not? LL Bean.
Yeah. Eddie
Oh, wait,
Bauer.
wait, with Austin Mac money, he's gonna go over to Arc'teryx. So, it will be interesting to see what happens and who plays and who doesn't. Again, despite win, lose, or draw, we will be back here for Flight Deck Live. Uh, Probably give or take probably about 10:15 ish Eastern time, but stay tuned to our socials for our broadcast. But we will be back. Also, just as a new note, because something that I wasn't able to mention because we didn't have it this week. We're going to be trying something new, and we are going to be making Flight Deck Live. Whether we want you to be there live, obviously, but we're also going to be offering it soon in audio version on our main channel. So we stay tuned for that. So if you happen to miss it one way or another, we'd rather you watch our faces though. We have beautiful faces because we're going to be doing it live. That's the fun part about it, where you get to chime. It's where you get to chime in. So, any other things you want to bring up, Clip, before we go? I know I get it's funny. I'm not at a show. We do a little more of an old school recap show, and we go about normal distance for our show time. But any last things before we finish up?
No, I'm just glad to hear that you're on the mend, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, it was rough not being able to do Flight Deck Live with you and have you there to share our thoughts during the game as well. But listen, folks, yeah, I know a lot of you think COVID's over, but as Tim unfortunately had to learn, it's not. So make sure you know, stay safe. Make sure you're taking all
Do
the
what you need.
precautions.
Yeah, do what you need to do. Yeah.
Simply put, I mean, I again, I'm not about to use this as a. I'm not here to preach, but at the same time, we want you to be able to come to Percival Molson Stadium. We don't want you watching the game on TV. We want you at the stadium. So, you know, just look out for yourself, look out for your family, make sure everybody's safe, and man, let's just look ahead because I mean, it's kind of sad to think about, Tim, but I mean, this season's almost over, but at the same time, things are about to kick off in a major way, and the Alouettes are going to be a big part of that, and I, for one, cannot wait.
I agree. And again, I want to thank everybody for the nice well wishes. It's really nice to see, everybody hearing about everybody from Alouettes Nation, whether it be players or whether it be fans of the show and stuff like that. I appreciate everything, and I hope to see you very soon. And as a reminder, again, at the home finale, October 26th will be the second annual meet and greet. Uh, Information's already out on our socials. If you happen to be watching us over on X or on Facebook, but it's already out there. We will see you guys for our post game show, Flight Deck Live, after the BC game. So once again, we will talk to you soon. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.